Hi
Okay.
everyone. Welcome to Last Book Alive. My name is Meher, and I'm here with my friend Jihae Kim, who lives in Korea. And I'm a freelance journalist and writer. And I've known Jihae and I used to go to high school together, and that's how I know her. And when I found this book, which is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, who is a Korean writer, I just thought of Jihae, and she has been kind enough to give me her time to read the book, and she's here to discuss the book with me. Hi Jihae, welcome.
Hi, Meher. I really don't know what I'm doing here, but I just really wanted to reconnect with Meher after, I guess it's been more than 20 years.
Yeah,
I'm Jihae, and I went to high school with Meher, like she said, in India. After that, I came back to Korea, and I've been flying for about 10 years in Germany. And after that, I've been doing a lot of different stuff here and there. It's too long. But right now, I have two girls, 9 and 7.
yeah,
And my older one is at home with her friends. So she might interrupt in the middle, but I
that's
told her not to come
fine.
into my room.
Yeah, no, totally fine.
And I wanted to show you this. The cover's different in Korean.
Oh,
So yours looked a lot
okay.
like
It's
prettier.
actually a bunny.
Yeah, but I have bunnies too, but I don't know, they look scarier on my cover.
Wait, where's the bunny? It's not.
The green shaped.
Oh, they're like facing each other.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. It's a little bit, I think like this is much more in line with the stories. Like
Yeah, that's what I
this is like
thought.
too happy.
I know exactly. So when I saw the cover in English, I thought, oh, it might not be, as dark as I might have imagined, but
This is so
yeah, this
interesting.
explains better.
Yeah, and I think this is
Yeah.
like this is the thing that I really find interesting, like when it comes to works in translation, like
Mm-hmm.
how things change when you translate it to English. Like I think we will also discuss it because I do have some questions related to that, like
Mm-hmm.
how it was in Korean and all that. But yeah, this particular cover, like I think I shared it on Insta, but it's designed by Jae Choi.
Mm-hmm.
Who's designed your cover? Can you is it there?
Does it say in my book?
I think it's.
I don't think it
Oh, it doesn't say.
is. Wait. Let me see the last page. The cover, not really.
Okay.
No, it just says the editor and yeah.
Hmm. It says who the editor is?
Yeah, editor is Kang Yeon-hee.
Kang Hyun-hee.
Yeon-hee Kang.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
design. Sunny Kim, Haeji Jang.
Okay. Okay. So it's someone
Yeah.
else, not Jae Choi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your
Yeah.
version was probably published in 2017, no? Like it says in this book, it says the original was published in 2017.
Right. Yeah, the first, 2017.
Okay.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Is it really famous?
What?
Is the book really famous?
Yeah, I mean, this book like was shortlisted for the Booker Prize for last year.
Yeah,
Um,
I
so it
saw.
did really well, and it was published in English. From what I read in the book, it was published by Honford Star in 2021, and then it got
Mm-hmm.
shortlisted in 2022 for the Booker Prize. So just last year, actually. So I think it's just making is she famous in Korea, by the way? Is Bora Chung famous? Like, had you heard of?
I actually looked it up online for like secondhand online site, and there were a couple who were selling,
Oh,
but I don't really have much readers around me, so I haven't heard of it from anyone else
okay,
here.
okay,
But I guess it's doing good, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I think it's definitely like, I mean, I loved it. I'm so glad I read this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the cover, like I know that yours is like more connected to the stories. But I love this cover so much. It's like my two favorite colors.
You know, and the title is Cursed Bunny,
Yeah.
right? So my kids, whenever I had this book around me for months, right? Already, they're like, "Why are you reading Cursed Bunny?" And my little one's favorite, animal is bunny, and she's like, "Why Cursed Bunny, mommy?" Sorry,
Oh
guys. Yeah. And when I finished, I actually finished the book this morning because I wanted the memory to be
no.
more
Yeah.
fresh. And when I shouted out, "I'm done," and my little one was like, "Yay, finally!"
You're done cursing the bunny. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I guess so. Yeah, because she has
that's
a
so
lot
cute.
of bunny like
Oh.
things, dolls in the house, and this one's not really cute, right?
No, it looks very ominous. It's like,
I actually had a few well, there are other questions too, but I was very curious because I read this in Korean,
yeah.
right? There are a lot of like cultural things that I was wondering how this could be translated into, and that's why I marked a few things like how can this be
Translated.
translated into English?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great place to start. Should we do you want to? Because I actually had a question about like I was like, do you actually have this in real life? like
Oh,
some
okay,
things I was
okay.
really like I was like, should I ask this? Like I was like, I want to ask this.
Yeah,
To Gia,
yeah.
yeah.
Just ask me
But
anything,
what? Yeah, why don't
everything.
you tell me about?
Oh
Huh?
yes, I want to ask you the first one. It's from the second story.
Okay.
In Korean, it's written body, which is head. Is it also head? The second one?
Okay. The second, do you mean the title of the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first is the cursed bunny. Second is head.
Oh, is it? So for me, the first story is the
Uh
head.
huh. Oh, the
Yeah,
head.
and the second story is the embodiment, and the third story is Cursed Bunny.
Oh, really? They're not in the same
They're not in the
order.
same order, yeah.
Oh, I see. The head was so weird. I kept looking at the toilet and I was like, oh. No,
I
but in
couldn't
this,
believe it. Like when I first read it, I had to reread it. I was like, what? Like I never read such a story before, you know? Like I was
I
like, let me get
know.
this right. And I was like, she said that? Did she say that? I was like, oh my god, she said that.
Yeah. It's so weird, but it's like you can't stop reading it, right? It's like this doesn't make sense, and you keep reading it.
Yeah.
There's a word that I was wondering. I think most probably the first word that I wonder how this is going to be translated. It's ajumma pama, which is like old ladies hair perm.
Is that in the
Um,
head? This short story head?
yeah, in the head, and this is the part where the lady, the woman, describes herself when she looks in the mirror. I think.
Mm.
Oh no, wait. The kid became the woman, the girl from high school to university college student. And then later on, I think it's the part where she describes her getting older.
Okay.
And then yeah, it's with the word ajumma pama, which means ajumma is like a very typical lady
Oh, okay.
in Korea. It's a very significant word, and pama is hair perm.
So should we
So I was
should we
wondering.
just should we just give the people who are watching this like a little bit of a short summary about the story so that then they get the context of what we're discussing?
Oh yeah, please do. You-
Okay. Okay, let me try. Okay, I'm not gonna give too much away because I do want people to read this book, so I want to leave a little bit of mystery. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but okay. So the story is called The Head. It's about a woman who finds a creature, like an entity, in the toilet, and this entity has come about from the waste that the woman has excreted, and her hair when she combs her hair and then she throws it in the toilet, her toilet paper, it's just all mixed up and it becomes this living being. And the only way that the story's called The Head, so it's just a head at first. And it basically lives based on, its life is based on the waste that the woman creates. And the woman is a very, I'm gonna say she's like a very typical like woman. I don't think that we really learn something about her that makes her very unique. Her life is very routine. Her marriage is basically very like dull, and just everything is routine. And her interaction with the head is obviously one of disgust and repulsion, even though it's her, it's a part of her, like, Um, and then they have a confrontation in the end, and that's where I'm going to stop because I don't want to say anything more. But yeah, it's just a relationship
Yeah.
between these two, and how the head kind of worships her in the beginning, like almost reveres her because the head wants to be like her, and she is disgusted by what she has produced, and it basically starts to stalk her. So whenever she goes to the toilet, there it is. It pops out.
No.
It's a really weird story, but it's also very it's kind of there's a sadness to it, and I think that sadness is there in a lot of these other stories. I think sadness and cruelty mixed, but there's also like, I don't know, like I just feel like in all of these stories there's an element of what makes us human, the human elements. So in that context, you were
Yeah.
saying that there's the Korean word. What was it?
It's ajumma.
Ajuma. What? So
Yeah, ajumma
go ahead.
is probably like starting around my age until you become an old lady.
Mm.
So it's like yeah,
Can you read?
it's not a very positive word.
Can you read in Korean the place where it comes? And
Uh,
yeah.
I'll just cut off a few sentences. It says 그 익숙한 낯선 얼굴에서 그녀는 젊은 시절 자신의 윤곽을 그대로 발견하고 놀라움과 대견함과 사랑과 질투를 동시에 느꼈다. 아이가 긴 머리에 스트레이트 파마를 하고 보라색 물을 들인 날 그녀는 혼자 거울 앞에 서서 꼬불꼬불하게 누른 아줌마 파마를 하고 검은색으로 물을 들인 자신의 머리를 몰래 만져보았다. So this is, I think she has a daughter,
Yeah,
right?
she does.
Yeah, there's a part where she describes the daughter, how she's become a big girl now, a college student,
Oh, okay.
and she kind of feels, yeah.
So I found it in English. So let me just read it in English. I don't know where you started from, but I'll just read that one sentence, or two sentences. The woman rediscovered the contours of her younger face in the familiar, unfamiliar face of her daughter, feeling surprise, pride, love, and jealousy at the same time. When her child straight permed her hair flat and dyed it purple, the woman stood before a mirror when no one was watching and fiddled with the curls of her auntie perm, a tight cap of poodle-like hair that had to be dyed black. That's the concept.
Yeah, exactly. Did you understand? You read the exact same sentences.
Yeah, that's so cool. Auntie perm. So the thing is, in India, there is something like an auntie. So I'm an auntie. Like,
yeah. That's what.
Like basically, it's kind of like 20s are over. 20s are over, and old age has not yet arrived. So you're kind of in the middle, So you're an auntie. So I do get referred to by people call me auntie, and even in India, it's kind of derogatory, but also women kind of make fun of it. Like, oh, you're being such an auntie.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like very organized, or like, like you have things that are very like specific. Like, I want to do it this way, this way. Oh, you're being such an auntie. Like, like you're just taking care. You're being too much of a mother, or like a middle-aged woman who wants everything in a specific way. Like that's.
It's very similar. I mean, because it's also, ajumma is also a word that, people kind of can make fun of, but at the same time, it's also used, it's a proper word, right? But the typical stereotype for ajumma in Korea is like, for example, if you get on a subway and there's only one seat, one empty seat, the ajumma will just run to it, right? No embarrassment, just like survival.
Yeah.
Don't care
Okay.
about anything. That's the word that
Uh,
it symbolizes, I think.
okay.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
interesting that both the cultures
There's
have this kind of almost mocking way of describing a woman who's past her reproductive prime, like not young anymore.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
if somebody calls you Ajama, or do you like with your other friends who are the same age, do you guys make fun of each other? Like in a way, like a playful, kind way. Do you guys call each other Ajama? Like, don't be such an Ajama or
I,
something like that? Because we say that, like, don't be such an auntie.
yeah. I mean, I, I don't have so many friends that act that way, so I don't think I've
Okay.
ever, kind of made fun of
Mm,
anyone in
yeah.
that way. But yeah, totally possible. It's not that, um, rude, I guess. But with
Okay.
friends, you
Friends,
can,
you can.
yeah, lightly just, yeah,
Okay.
interesting.
Okay, so yeah, just to, I mean, we just gave like a summary of this particular short story. The entire collection is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like this. It's a collection that has a lot of fantasy, elements of science fiction in it. But then again, the thread of what makes us human, I feel like it runs through it. But Jade, which one was your favorite story to read?
My
Yeah,
favorite. To be honest, they weren't. I'm not a very dark person, I guess.
yeah,
So it was very. I mean, I enjoyed
yeah,
reading it because it was interesting enough to keep reading. But I'm not sure if I want to pick a
yeah.
favorite. Maybe I don't know because it all ends really sad or like
Mm,
someone dying or
mm,
disappearing or
yeah.
yeah, those kind of endings. So,
But do all of them end
but
that
I
way?
think a lot of them, or just I think some of them ends as in like nothing really changed. There's
Mm,
nothing, not a like a change in story kind of happy ending.
mm.
There's no happy
Yeah, there's
ending
no happy
anymore.
ending, no.
But I think the guy, I let me look for the title about the boy Scar,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Scar.
scars, yeah.
I think that was one of the longest ones of the in the book, and that might have been more interesting for me. It was, I don't know. I can't say it's my favorite, but it was interesting.
So which one was your least favorite? Which one was the one that you were like, I don't want to, or like the feeling that you got,
The
like,
Scar.
yeah,
It stays in my head the most, the story. So I would say the Scar.
okay, okay.
Yeah. And because in the beginning I couldn't really understand
Mm,
like what is this monster thing and what's the why is the boy there? It doesn't explain much in the beginning,
yeah.
right? So to figure it out I just had to keep reading.
Okay, so the scar is the one about the two siblings, right? The
Yeah,
wolf.
they're the wolf boy kind
Okay,
of.
so there are two. There's snare and there's scars. Scars
Oh,
Scars is like
right.
the one in English, Scars is the one where they're the brother and the sister, and the brother drinks the sister's blood.
All right. Yeah, that was also no. Yeah, I mean, I know that one too. That was also a good one, actually.
Yeah.
But that was sick.
That was really sad. Yeah. It was really it was
I
there
know.
was
I
just
know.
overload of cruelty. Like there was a lot of cruelty. That one was really actually tough to
Yeah.
read for me. But the one that you're talking about, I
Yeah.
think, is the one that in English is called Snare, which is about this just one
Oh,
boy who is
yeah.
who
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
basically trapped in a cave.
Right. 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 That
Okay.
one.
Yeah, do you wanna
Yeah.
talk about why did it stay with you? Like that one?
I think I was kind of hoping that things will get better for
Yeah,
him,
yeah,
and it kind of seemed like it's going that
yeah,
direction, and it might have kind of too, but I don't know. It didn't really end that
yeah.
way. But I guess it depends on, how you think about it. Some people might think it ended in a good way, but for me, I guess that story kind of gave me hope to see out of all the sad
Yeah. Yeah.
endings, the brighter one. Yeah, I think that's why it stayed
Yeah.
longer, more in my
Yeah.
head. Yeah. Well, how was it like for you?
I honestly felt like that one could have had a happier ending. And I felt like it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
forced. Like the ending was
Mm.
forced, is what I felt. Like the way that the
Mm.
story progressed. So I just wanted to just summarize it for, people, just so they know what we're
Yeah.
talking about. So this story is basically about a boy and wait, hold on. I am getting confused. Okay, 129. Okay, hold on. Yes. This story is about a boy who is basically taken to a cave and left there by a group of people. And the cave has a creature that comes and sucks on the boy's marrow, the bone marrow. And that's how the creature survives. Uh, the boy is basically, I don't even know how he survives because the creature really, like, really, really hurts him very, very badly physically. And the boy basically, yeah, I mean, he basically says even in the story that the cave becomes a safe haven, because that's all he knows. But that's where he is hurt. But eventually he does manage to leave. But when he flees, he comes across this man who then makes him his slave, and makes him fight for him. And so the boy realizes that what he was looking for obviously was some amount of kindness, but he doesn't find it. So he flees again. And then he comes across this small hut where a blind woman waits for him. I mean, is waiting. She's waiting for her brother. He falls in love with the woman, and realizes that uh, the only way that this particular village or this particular area can be lifted of the creature's curse is if he goes and kills the creature. So that I just want to leave it at that. But the ending, I just wanted to read the ending because we're talking about the ending quite a bit. So the ending is not as I would have expected. I wanted him to just go back to that woman and start a new life. I thought that would have been,
Yeah.
it kind of would have stayed truer to the story, but the
Mhm.
writer, I feel like she was more true to the collection. Maybe someone told her like this ending, maybe she had that ending, and then someone's like that doesn't fit in with the rest of the collection, like the tone of it, so maybe she changed it. But I did feel like the ending
Yeah.
was forced.
Mhm.
And the ending is basically, so this is what happens. Um, when he came to again, it was morning. The woman and her brother's hut had vanished without a trace. Where the shed had once stood were what looked like the man's scattered remains, along with oceans of blood. Finding it unbearable to look at, he turned his head and quickly left the scene. He despaired. He hadn't wanted revenge, at least not this kind of revenge. He simply had not known that the village's survival had hinged solely on the existence of the creature. The absurdity of the conclusion made him feel helpless. The strangers who stole his childhood with their sorcerer and beliefs, the despondent life he had lived on the brink of death, it had all been meaningless in the end. Mourning his years of suffering and despair, he stood there in the ruins of the village and wept. And once his tears had finally ceased, he began to walk toward the rising sun, in search for that place in this world where his life was waiting for him.
Mm. Yeah. Mhm. It's really translated well.
Yeah.
Exactly spot where you were reading.
Mm.
Should I read it in Korean
Yeah,
too?
that would be nice.
Exactly where you were, because you skipped the middle
Yeah,
a
I
little
did.
bit, right?
It was just getting. But go ahead, you read it the way you want to.
오케이. 다시 정신을 차렸을 때는 아침이었다. 여자와 그 오빠의 집은 흔적도 없이 사라졌다. 집의 뒤쪽 헛간이 있었던 부근에 남자의 시신일 듯한 조각들이 대량의 피와 함께 흩어져 있었다. 그는 차마 볼 수 없어 고개를 돌리고 걸음을 재촉하여 그곳을 떠났다. 그는 절망했다. 그가 원했던 것은 복수가 아니었다. 최소한 이런 복수는 원하지 않았다. 다만 그는 마을 전체가 그것의 존재에 기대어 생존하고 있다는 사실을 몰랐을 뿐이었다. 합당한 결말이라 해도 그는 밀려오는 상실감을 어찌할 수 없었다. 알지도 못하는 타인들과 주술과 환상과 잘못된 믿음에 빼앗겨버린 어린 시절, 매일이 생사의 기로였으나 이제는 아무 의미도 없어져 버린 그때의 오랜 고통과 절망을 애도하며 그는 폐허가 된 마을에 멈추어 서서 울었다. 그리고 마침내 눈물이 멈췄을 때 세상 어딘가에 있을 자신의 삶을 찾기 위해 그는 해가 뜨는 쪽을 향해 천천히 걷기 시작했다. I guess it is kind of brighter than the other ones because he's walking toward the sun, right? But yeah, I do agree with what you said. The author might have been kind of forced to make this ending.
I love the.
Left the girl.
Sorry? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Now just.
No, I kind of hope that the girl was still alive.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I still like love stories.
Yeah, I was really hopeful. Like, it was a really refreshing kind of thing. Oh, there's love in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds so nice in Korean, like the rhythm, and it's kind of melancholic, like, but it's very, like, it's so rhythmical. Like, when you're reading it, like,
Is it?
now that I know what you're reading, like, from English, like, I can see, like, the story as, I mean, obviously I don't understand it, but it sounds really nice.
That's nice. What was your favorite? Which one would you say was yours?
I thought Cursed Bunny was just out of this world. I had
Yeah.
I had a question for you, but like
Mhm.
when I read it, I was just like, oh my God, like what a story can do,
Really?
because I felt like I was in a fairy tale for adults. Like this entire
That's
collection, I
true.
feel like I'm reading fairy tales. It's
Mhm.
it's so and this one I just cherished it so much. And I know it's pretty dark, like, but here I felt like the ending it wasn't so sad. It was just kind of like somebody accepting their fate,
Mhm.
you know.
True.
Do you want to tell people what Curse Bunny is about? Do you want to give it a shot?
Cursed
Yeah.
Bunny? Okay, I'll give it a shot, but that was the first story, so I might not like remember very clearly.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay, so there is this the guy who talks. I think it's a guy. It's a boy. Is it a boy?
Wait, let me see.
Is
Page 51.
I think it's a grown-up man.
Oh, the narrator?
Their narrator is a man.
Actually, I don't know if it's a boy or a man. I assume that it was a man.
Yeah. But it's not a woman, it's a man, I think.
Yeah, are you sure? Because I didn't even know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I know that because in the story the narrator says the grandpa talks to the grandchild, but in Korean we have different words for boy and girl.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it says, I think it says 손자, which
손자.
is a boy grandchild.
And granddaughter would be?
손녀.
녀.
Yeah, would be a
Okay.
girl. Yeah. So, but I might be wrong if my memory is not good, but that's what I think I see the word here.
Yeah.
So basically this grandson talks about his grandfather's life story, and he is a guy who makes different kinds of stuff and curses them and sells
Mm-hmm.
them. He makes money out of that. I think that's what he does for a living. And he starts talking about his
Mm.
friend. The grandfather talks about his
Yeah.
friend who was quite a nice guy who worked really hard, and but then he was something happened to him. Someone there's there's fraud somewhere. um, this other, I think it was a competitor, a big
Yeah.
kind of firm. They kind of stole their recipe for making liquor, I
Mm.
think, and then and this his friend, the grandfather's friend, he died. So the grandfather decided to curse the competitor somehow, and that's how the cursed bunny is created. It's sent to their office first, but then it spreads into their whole family house and everything around this competitor's family. They're all like going through unexplainable situations. Their
Yeah.
family is all very hurt. In the end, how does it end? Can you
Yeah.
refresh me with the ending?
The ending is basically we come back to the room where the cursed bunny is, and the grandfather
Right.
and the grandson, they're sitting together, and basically they have a conversation, which is just a beautiful conversation. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can read in English and then if you want, like,
Okay.
but
Mm-hmm.
so basically, like, it's a in English, it's they've used the word fetish, cursed fetish.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Where is it?
they're in the business of making cursed fetishes.
Oh, okay. It's in Korean. I think it's just thing. 물건.
Mulgan. Okay.
물건. Yeah, 물건 is just stuff, thing, object.
Cursed object.
Yeah.
Because fetish is like it's kind of fetish. I mean, the context in which fetish is used is like sexual, right? Like sexual fetishes. Like you have these
Mm-hmm.
kinks.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they've
Mm-hmm.
used the word fetish, I thought was interesting. I mean, is it
Yeah. In Korean, it's not very much like that word, I
okay?
think. Hmm.
Um, okay. So let's see. Curse bunny ending. Um, I mean, I think it's beautiful because it also it's like a story. It's like a story within a story. Like we are reading it, and then the grandfather is talking to
Yeah.
the son, and he tells the story. So we're reading a story within a story. So I thought that was also like a fairy tale kind of element to it. But I'll just read the ending. I want to read the whole thing, but I don't think I should. But okay. On evenings when the moon is covered by gloomy clouds, or when it's raining so heavily that the showers seem to obscure the light of the street lamps, or a night so dark and forlorn that no light, neither natural nor artificial, can withstand it, grandfather reappears in the armchair next to the window, turns on the bunny lamp, and begins to tell the same story he has told me scores of times before. Perhaps that's grandfather's curse, or his blessing. It's late, he says. You've got to sleep early if you want to go to school tomorrow. I I'm well past school attending age, so yeah. No one in this house goes to school anymore, but I always answer the same way. Yes, grandfather, good night. Then, on impulse, I give his wrinkled cheeks a light peck. There was a time when I wondered if I should ask how he died, what happened to his body, or where his grave is. I've thought about it several times, but now I firmly suppress the desire to ask whenever it threatens to get a hold of me. If grandfather ever remembers how he died, he might stop coming. Worse, he might not remember, leaving my questions unanswered, and his surprise at my questions may make him disappear for good. I couldn't stand it if that happened. So I say nothing. I quickly turn around, go back to my room, and close the door. but not completely. I leave it open a crack to see grandfather still sitting in the armchair and the pretty bunny lamp shining next to him. The sight reassures me. This is part of the ending. I don't want to finish, I don't want to read all of it, but
Yeah, I can again exactly see where you read.
yeah,
And from here we can be sure that it's not a boy,
it's a
a grown
man,
up
yeah.
man.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll read that in.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that's nice.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it in Korean. 달이 어스름하게 구름에 가린 밤 혹은 비가 추적추적 내려서 길거리에 가로등 불빛도 제대로 보이지 않는 밤, 자연의 빛도 인공의 빛도 모두 힘을 쓰지 못하는 어둡고 적적한 밤이면 할아버지는 창가의 안락의자에 나타나 토끼 전등을 켜고 이미 몇십 번이나 들려주었던 같은 이야기를 또다시 시작하는 것이다. 그것이 할아버지의 저주일까? 혹은 축복일까? 밤이 늦었구나. 할아버지가 말한다. 내일 학교 가려면 일찍 자야지. 학교에 갈 나이는 이미 지났다. 이 집안에 이제 학교에 다니는 사람은 아무도 없다. 그러나 나는 고분고분 대답한다. 네, 할아버지 안녕히 주무세요. 그리고 나는 충동적으로 할아버지의 주름진 볼에 가볍게 입을 맞춘다. 할아버지가 어디서 어떻게 돌아가셨는지, 시신은 어떻게 되었는지, 무덤은 어디에 있는지 여쭤볼까 고민했던 적도 있었다. 여러 번 있었다. 그러나 그 질문을 입 밖에 내놓고 싶어질 때마다 나는 꾹꾹 눌러 참는다. 할아버지가 기억을 떠올리고 사실을 깨닫게 되면 더 이상 찾아오지 않을 것이다. 더 나쁜 건 할아버지가 기억을 떠올리지도 못하고 내가 답을 찾지도 못한 채 할아버지가 그냥 내 질문에 놀라서 더 이상 찾아오지 않게 되는 것이다. 그렇게 되는 건 견딜 수 없다. 그래서 나는 아무 말도 하지 않는다. 조용히 돌아서서 내 방으로 들어와 문을 닫는다. 그러나 완전히 닫지는 않는다. 문틈으로 여전히 거실에 앉아있는 할아버지의 모습과 그 옆에 너무도 예쁜 토끼 전등이 엿보인다. 그래서 나는 안심한다. Yeah, that was pretty long.
It's yeah.
This ending's pretty nice too.
Mm.
I think it's quite subtle.
It is, yeah. It's like there's no like good or evil like in this particular. I mean, because the family makes cursed bunnies. I mean, has made this, which has basically killed people. They live with that guilt. But I guess it's also kind of their purpose in life or who they are to make these cursed fetishes, and they made this one mistake. In the story they say like there's a rule, right? Like never make cursed fetishes for personal reasons, and the grandfather
Right.
obviously does not. He breaks that rule, so then he's stuck with this. I don't know. I think it's guilt. Like he feels guilty, but then he also feels attached to the bunny. I don't know. Why do you think he feels attached to the bunny?
That's the only thing that he made for himself. Probably to reach his goal or whatever he wanted to do, revenge or whatever that was. It's probably the only thing that he made for himself. That's what yeah.
Okay.
That's so attached to things that we make. Like my kids, they came out of me, so I feel a lot of great attachment to them. And I guess it could be something like that.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think?
I think it's that the bunny broke him, but it yeah, I like the way that you described it. I mean, I didn't see it that way actually, but I didn't actually think too deeply about it. Now that I think about it, I was just like, oh, that's so pretty. But now that I'm thinking, I'm just like, yeah, why? Like, why would he? I think it's like sometimes people are really good at their jobs, but they may not be passionate about it because it's not personal. Like it's a job and they do it really well. And I feel like maybe this was the way
Mm,
that he was when it came to making cursed fetishes. But this bunny that he made, it
mm,
was for a deeply personal reason.
mm-hmm,
So, and that's why he's attached to it because it represents the love that he had for his friend, but it's also the thing
mm,
that destroyed him. And I think it's
mm.
both, maybe that, but yeah, I mean that's what I thought. Um,
Yeah. Do you really think this bunny destroyed him? It was the bunny what destroyed him, the grandfather,
mm, yeah,
because of the guilt.
yeah, I think it was. I think he felt guilty when the bunny was made for one person, but it destroyed so
Mm,
many other people in the way. You know, it's like revenge. It's like
right,
you don't know where it's gonna hit. Like you want to target one person, but it may
right.
have these fallout. Other people may be impacted by it. Um,
Mm. I guess I didn't think too deeply or so much of that the bunny destroyed him
mm,
because this was his job. He sold cursed objects in Korean 물건들, right?
mm,
So he was cursing and who knows what, other people how other people were hurt and killed or
mm,
how they were cursed and so I don't I in my head I guess it wasn't just the bunny that destroyed him, but that profession that he had is what
mm,
like overall the
mm.
was what destroyed him. I guess that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But in the end, I mean, the story is about the cursed bunny, and that's the only cursed object that the grandfather knows from start to end, right?
Mm,
Because it was not a sold object, so he knows the whole story, and that's the only story that he can tell his grandson because other objects he doesn't know what happened to them, right?
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting idea. That's a very interesting thought.
Yeah.
That this is just one. I mean, you don't know
Mm,
how much damage he did with other objects that he
right.
made. But he didn't make those
Mm,
objects for personal gain or something. I mean, this is the only one that he made.
right.
So maybe,
Right.
yeah, I thought,
I don't know. I guess that was like as I was reading the story,
yeah.
I didn't think that he why guess I kind of questioned why would he be so guilty about making this bunny because all he's been making was everything cursed
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and for people who didn't know he didn't do much good to the others
Mm,
because he was living his life out of it but still it's not a very positive one.
yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
but I want to ask you actually, this was the thing that I was like, should I ask or not? But I want to ask, like, this
Yeah.
concept of cursed fetishes, cursed objects, is this something that
Mm-hmm.
was new to you? Like when you heard it, or
No,
is this something that does happen
no.
in Korea? Because some like occult or black magic, like, is it kind of part of that
Mhm.
tradition? In India, like, there are things that do happen, like,
I think there. I mean, I'm not very good with Korean history or either, but it wasn't very new to me.
mm,
I I remember seeing maybe in a TV show or like a soap opera that they made kind of like a doll, and you stab the doll.
yeah, voodoo.
Is that Korean? I don't think that's Korean actually. Yeah, voodoo doll. But that's not Korean, right? But I think there's something very similar to that in like a Korean way too.
Okay.
So I guess it wasn't so new, but I couldn't figure out if there was something like exactly like this in the old days.
Okay. Yeah.
Should have gone to Korean school longer.
No, but I mean, actually, I watch a lot of horror films and a lot of, I can't remember on the top of my head, but I do watch horror films and a lot of them are Korean. And like a
Yeah,
lot, like
yeah. Koreans really
it has a lot of like this genre, like science fiction and you know, even like dark fantasy or horror. Like they have some amazing, and I should have kind of made like thought about which film I was talking about, but yeah, I mean some of these films that are really unique, have a very unique perspective, and are just very new and fresh are Korean movies that are horror films or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is this, I don't know,
Mm.
like I feel like there is this dark aspect to Korean culture, but it's a very like not like I don't know anything about Korean culture, but like the way that I perceive it from what I've read and what I see is that I don't know, like
Mm.
it's just another folklore, it's another world. Like it's very different from Western concepts of good and evil. Like the
True.
way that she talks about
True.
cruelty, I have never read this much of cruelty anywhere. Like
Oh,
so I
really?
was like, wow, like this is really brave. Like, for a writer to be like, I'm not gonna make it pretty or whatever. Like, this is what happens.
Oh.
So I
Oh.
really like that.
That's interesting because to me, as we, I guess I didn't feel much of a distance
Mm,
while reading it because I mean I didn't think that oh this can happen, but it wasn't too shocking for me to read something like this.
mm.
If yeah, yeah, so I guess that's very I guess that culture is in me after all. Something
Why
I
is
don't
that
know.
just not surprising for you? Like, is it kind of in the way like, what about fairy tales? Like when you were a child and you read fairy tales, like Korean fairy tales, were they kind of similar? Like in
Mm-hmm.
not obviously this graphic, but or were they happy? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was the
Korean fairy tales. Trying to think of like um for example there is a in Korean we say 전래동화
전래동화?
Korean fairy
Okay.
tales 전래동화 there's it's a very short one I think there's also a song about it. There's a baby or young a kid crying and the mom gets so like frustrated and they live in a very small house. And the mom says, "If you don't stop crying, tiger is gonna come and eat you or like take you." Stuff like that. There are a lot of fairy tales that the tigers appear, or a lot of tigers appear in Korean fairy tales actually. Yeah, and the tigers usually try to eat you up
Mm,
or take you away to the mountains or
mm.
something like that. I'm not sure if there's any relationship in this story and that the Korean fairy tales, but I'm sure the author. I mean, she's a Korean,
Yeah.
so she has that yeah kind of culture in her
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I mean, I cannot say for myself that I'm 100% very Korean cultured minded person because I was, as you know, I was everywhere and I was also in Germany for quite a long time. So sometimes when I am with my daughter's friends' moms, I I can't really like have the same kind of conversation. I get very tired, so I like I just start to like look for Gia. Where are you? and I kind of sometimes say I have to go somewhere, so I'm gonna go ahead. So I don't know. But the story wasn't like too shocking for
Mm.
me. But it was. I just kept thinking it was very dark, sad, and also reflected a lot of um, everyone's ordinary daily lives, like the last one as well. The last story in the well, it won't be the last story in your book, but there's this story of this couple and the guy the wife works really hard for like 7 years and they after making enough money they buy a building and they are hoping
Yeah.
for a very ordinary ordinary life out of the city busy unmeaningful
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
But I think that story was kind of like with a lot of people's lives here in Korea.
Uh,
Mm.
Yeah, I really like that one. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I could totally see
Was
that
that
as
also
a.
the last?
No, it's not. It's the third last.
Okay.
And yeah, let me see what I wrote for that. Oh yeah, I actually had a question for you about that. I did not know how this lady was able to afford to buy an entire building when for the cost of an
Mm.
apartment. I didn't know how can that be like, isn't that too expensive for her? And the other thing was, I don't know what a fortune gainer is. I didn't get that.
Fortune Gainer?
Yeah.
Mm, sure, where. Oh, that wasn't the last story for me. It was the second last,
Okay.
but oh no, third last.
Oh, it was the third last. Yeah, it's the same
So,
here.
oh, okay, okay. What was the word again?
Fortune gainer.
Fortune Gainer. Hmm. I ah I think I remember that word. 대안적 삶. I think that's 작은 자본주의에 매몰되지 않는. I think it's one of those words, but it's also a word that I was like, a difficult Korean word.
Mm,
So,
fortune gainer.
but I guess it's something like because a lot of people like your first question about being able to buy a building after living in a small apartment, right? I guess the real estate in Korea is very different as where you live. So, like in a specific section, I guess you know Gangnam from the song
Yes.
Gangnam Style, right?
Yeah. I didn't know it
So
was
that
pronounced like
yeah
that. I
would
used
be.
to say Gangnam. It's
Oh, I
Gangnam.
mean, yeah,
Okay.
Gangnam, yeah, right.
Gangnam. Okay.
Yeah, so that area is one of the most expensive areas in Korea, right? So with the same amount of money, you might have to live in a small apartment in Gangnam, but if you go like more to a suburb or outside of the city, you might even be able to buy a building. That is quite yeah, real.
Okay.
Um, so yeah.
Okay.
And there are actually some people who there are a lot of people who wants to come into Gangnam area for many different reasons, job opportunities, education, everything else. But it's really hard to start settle in Gangnam because it's expensive, right? But there are also on the other end people who want to wait until like your kids get into college and finally get out of Gangnam.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah,
Oh.
this was. Oh, I had a question about the story. There's a kid, right? And I kind of got lost. I was like, there was a kid, and the kid is not real.
Mm. Yeah.
Not real,
No,
right?
not real. Yeah. So I just want to give
Because
a brief like overview of this Home Sweet Home is what it's called in English.
yeah,
And then we can
yes, please.
yeah, so basically what you were talking about like this family they move out of a small apartment and they buy a whole building which is kind of really run down and I think their goal is basically to do it up, to renovate it and then to put it on rent and to live on the fourth floor, I think is where they make their home. But it turns out that the husband is kind of like an alternative freestyle, like, kind of appears to be a person who's very chill and relaxed, but actually robs the wife of her money by, investing it in a sham scheme. And it's basically about, what I liked about this was that the house itself is a character. Like you see the different, especially the basement. So the wife actually becomes very a frequent visitor to the basement of the house because there she meets a girl who is we're told is her daughter. Um, and that's where like because she's so stressed about money, they're not getting enough people to rent rooms, and they're getting there's some bullying also happening. One of the renters wants them to pay up, which I didn't actually understand why they wanted 30 million won when they're the ones who are the tenants. But so she's really stressed, and she goes into this basement and she talks to this girl who we're told is her daughter. And slowly we find out that when she complains to the daughter, the people who are making her worried disappear. Like they meet very, very brutal deaths. And eventually, even the husband kind of disappears. And it's just basically the story ends with the woman and her daughter living in that building. And, basically we kind of get the sense that the woman is now at peace. So that was the summary. But yeah, go ahead, Gia.
Yeah, I actually just figured out that it was a girl because in Korean it just says a kid, ai.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know it was a girl.
Yeah.
And that premium money that you were wondering why the tenant was asking for, I was also like, because I'm not very sure of the real estate stuff either, but it's something that the owner sometimes, because of the, I don't know how to explain this. It's by law they have to give the tenant some money for some kind of benefit they bring to the building.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've said this right, so if anyone can correct it.
No, that
do.
kind of makes sense in this context why they would want. But I think that they're demanding too much. Like it's not 30 million won that they're supposed to be giving them. But yeah. But I actually wanted to move forward with the story that I really liked. I mean, I've underlined quite a bit of this as well. There's a lot of like kind of calling out of sexism within marriage, like how. Sorry.
I think my daughter wants to say something to me. Sorry. Yeah. What is it, G? Tell me.
Can you drink something?
Oh, hi, Lena. Get some milk from the fridge.
Oh, okay. Only milk?
Then what else do we have?
Oh, can you drink something?
I don't have anything else. Okay, sorry. You have to.
No. So should we just?
She was like holding a paper.
She can come and say hi if she wants. No, absolutely. But I think is she with friends?
Yeah. I let her call her, invite her some friends.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think I want to talk to you about this particular story called The Embodiment, which is about this woman who gets pregnant because she uses birth control pills.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's the second story in this book, in the English version.
Okay.
And I loved it.
Yeah. 몸하다 is.
So one question I have.
The Korean title is
몸하다. So there's this Korean word here, which I don't know what it means. I don't know if it comes out. It's right here.
Can you put up a little bit? Up. 몸하다. Yeah, that's 몸하다. The first word.
몸하다.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is a kind of old way of saying having your period.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 몸하다.
It says it means to body, to menstruate, to undergo menstruation. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I love this story because
I've never heard of this story.
What did you think?
Go ahead.
Okay, no, you go ahead first. I want you to talk.
No.
More.
The word. 몸하다 is also new to me. I've never heard it either, and probably for a lot of other Koreans too, because it's explained here, written. 몸하다 is the same word, and the author explains what it means.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the same here, like it's explained like what it means. But so how do you say menstruation in Korean? Like this is also Korean though, bomhada, but it's an old word you said.
Yeah. So most people won't really know what it means, but in Korean, menstruation is 생리.
생리. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because in Hindi, I'm just trying to think if there's a word for menstruation, and we don't have one, I don't think. I mean, I don't know it. We just say mahina ho raha hai. Mahina ho raha hai means it's my month. It's my time of the month. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah. But
Interesting.
yeah, what did you think about this particular short story when you read it? Like, what was the feeling that you had when?
With the story, I think I felt I don't see you.
I'm right here.
Did you get cut off?
No.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Can you see my
Your-
whole
your-
face or just my nose, just up to my nose?
No, your screen's gone black.
Oh yeah?
I don't see your face. Yeah. Your camera might have.
No, my camera's working. And I can see you, so we
Yeah?
can continue, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, with the story, I guess I kind of felt like a little anger, or I don't know. I felt very sad for the girl because what did she do wrong to deserve this? Yeah, I think that's basically how I felt about while reading the story. And again, I shouldn't have thought of, oh, this makes sense and this doesn't, because this is not something that, has to make sense to me, right? But this one in particular, it didn't come to me as like a fairy tale, but really, this doesn't make sense. How was it for you?
I was just like relating to this woman in terms of her experience. In the way that people were treating her in the hospital, like the doctors. I mean, the way that they treated her is the way that most doctors in India treat their patients, which is like very like they don't explain things clearly, and especially to women, they talk down to them. They treat us like children, or like, like where we don't understand our own bodies. So I really connected with this story in that sense, like not obviously the biology of it, but just that was really something that, yeah, I was like, I get that.
I guess because I have kids as well, and in Korea, no doctors are like this. Yeah, that's probably why I couldn't relate to it much as well, because this just didn't make sense. No doctors in Korea are like this, and no patient will go to that doctor if the doctor would treat a patient like that. So starting from that, it just didn't make much sense to me, and I just had to keep questioning, why did she go back to this doctor?
Why didn't you go to another hospital?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Yeah, so I guess I couldn't relate much because of that. It's not really, I didn't really feel like it, made sense, or it was all weird, like how she just continued with it. Not try to, I guess she tried to end it in the beginning, but I don't know. I just thought she was very, she couldn't stand up for herself.
She could,
something like that.
But so in your experience, like in Korea, like women patients are treated very like well, like this kind of they're not condescending or anything like that towards women patients.
No,
okay,
not at all. To any kind of patients, it's everyone's very kind and polite.
Yeah, I don't know, like this is something that really like I really like this one because of my experience with doctors and what I've seen doctors do in India. So I was just like, yeah, this is something
Mm-hmm.
that I related to. And I actually wanted to read this bit because I wanted to share with people
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like just the interaction between the doctor and the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I gave a summary, but basically there's this woman who finds herself pregnant because she took birth control pills, and it's obviously keeping in mind that this is a fantasy slash science fiction, whatever, in that genre. Like this is what
Mm-hmm.
happens when she takes birth control pills, she gets pregnant. Okay, so this is her going to the doctor, and this is the doctor's response. So the reason that she went to the doctor in the first place was because her period wouldn't stop. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was another thing. And when she goes there, she finds out that she's pregnant. So this is what the doctor responds. This is her response. The doctor sighed, her irritation out her vividly painted red lips. If your body happens to be abnormal, a side effect from taking birth control pills for a long time can be pregnancy. Really? But aren't birth control pills made to prevent pregnancy? Her objection came out meek. The doctor's black and blue gaze immediately turned sharp again. You're the one who overdid it with the pills. It's your own fault. Medicine isn't candy you can gorge on whenever you feel like it. What do I do now? The doctor flipped through the chart. Does the child have a father? Excuse me? Does the child have someone who can be their father? No. The doctor looked up and gave her a scary look through her thick makeup. Then you better hurry up and find a man who's willing to be the father. The child's father? Why? The doctor shot back. You're carrying a child. Of course the child needs a father. But what happens if there's no father? You're in a situation where you've become pregnant under abnormal circumstances, which means that if you don't find a male partner, the cells of your fetus of the fetus will not properly propagate or grow. You know how in grocery stores there are free range fertilized eggs and non fertilized eggs? It's the same thing here. If the fetus does not properly grow, then your pregnancy will not proceed normally, and this will ultimately be bad for the mother. Do you understand what I'm saying? Clearly, the doctor was annoyed with her. Well, what do you mean bad? That depends. You're only 6 weeks along right now, so I can't really tell you what's going to happen. The doctor sighed. Then she glared at her again and threatened, you better find a father for that child, fast. If you don't, things will get really bad for you. She's like a witch doctor or something. Like that's.
Yeah.
But I also like.
Do you want me to read in Korean too?
Yeah, no,
Not
we can. I mean, because
necessarily.
it's going over an hour, so I wanted
Yeah.
to get your thoughts, more of your thoughts on this. But I just wanted to add that it's like also like this pressure to find a man. Like you have to find a
Mm.
man. Like it,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like without the man, it's kind of like saying like without a man, your life is incomplete. Like you're even biologically incomplete. You know,
Right.
that was also something that came out for me. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this kind of thoughts are still in older people's minds, older like our maybe our parents'
Mm,
generations. But nowadays in Korea too, a lot of people prefer to stay single,
mm,
don't want to get married. And I guess the author, kind of had that in mind when writing this story as well. I don't know if she's married or not,
mm.
but
So even now, like there
yeah,
is this pressure.
yeah, definitely. Like, I have friends who are not married yet, and they still, get a lot of stressful pressures from their relatives, their parents,
Mm,
and they have to. Well, they kind of agree to going on blind dates to
mm,
find a man. It still happens, but I think in a lot of women in my age as well, sometimes they feel incomplete
mm,
being single. Some might do, but yeah. I guess we're at a stage where it's kind of mixed.
Mm,
It's okay to be single. It's not okay to be single.
mm.
Marriage, the importance of marriage also is kind of, yeah,
Okay.
in the middle.
All right. I think I basically, what is it? I'm just looking to see if we
Mm,
did we discuss the brother and sister story? Kind of did.
kind of little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually saw a a very short clip about golden blood.
Yeah.
After reading that story, I don't know, somehow coincidentally popped out while I was looking through something, and there are RH blood type. No, RH something. I don't know. It's called golden blood
Oh yeah.
or something. They can give their blood to any type of any blood type, but they can only get it from the same RH type or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It was really weird. After reading that story, I saw a short clip on it.
You went and Googled golden blood.
So, no, I didn't. I really didn't, and it was so weird.
That it suddenly came up. That's a real weird coincidence. Yeah.
You know how on Instagram a lot of different reels
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff come
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just flipping and I was like, how did it know that I read this book?
It's listening. Yeah. Sometimes that happens to me too. Like, yeah.
Am I
How did it know?
yeah.
But yeah, look, I just mm, yeah, I mean, I think that story, I like that story. The one that there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about the story about the boy who was in a cave. That's the one that was your
Mm-hmm.
favorite, right? Or like the one that you kind of connected
Yeah.
with?
Most interesting.
Yeah, yeah, you found
Yeah.
interesting. I like this one line that so this is about the discussion is about the boy and where he lives and all that. So I just wanted to read
Mm-hmm.
this. The creature came to the boy once a month, pierced his bones, and sucked at his marrow. After it left, the boy wouldn't be able to move for a while out of pain and fear. When he'd finally make an effort to get up, the feeling that his backbone was shattering would make him cry out. There was no intended meaning or direction to the boy's screams. The boy had no family he knew of. Since no one knew the boy existed, no one realized that the boy had disappeared. And I skipped a little bit, but this last line is something that I really stuck with me, which is since no one knew the boy existed, no one realized that the boy had disappeared. And I've written that, it kind of made me feel like to exist means to exist for others or in front of others. It's kind of like you make your presence like people have to see you in order for you to exist. So that even if the boy was physically alive, he didn't feel that way because there was nobody else around. And so like the fear was that, he could disappear or he had disappeared even when he was alive, which I think is it's a really beautiful and sad kind of thought that she's trying to communicate. Yeah. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But I mean, in the end, there was someone who knew him.
yeah, yeah, that's the silver
Yeah.
lining. The woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess because of the hope, I liked this story out of the other ones. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add,
Nice.
Jihae? Let me see if I've asked you everything.
I think it was interesting. I honestly wouldn't have read this book. I think if it wasn't
Wasn't for me.
for this chance to
Yeah.
meet you and talk about it. I mean, I really don't. I'm not really a reader, so
Yeah.
but it was good for me because my older one, she reads a lot and she loves reading. I don't know how it turned out that way, which I think it's very fortunate. But I could just sit with and have something to read with her.
Mm,
So it was good. Although it was a dark story, it
mm.
was interesting enough for me to
Continue.
get into this book.
Yeah.
Yes, I really thank you for that. And it was fun. And I really was looking forward to meeting you online too.
Same here, Jihae. It was, but before you go, I want to ask you, like, what is the last book that you've read that you enjoyed?
Oh, I can't remember. No, because I do read, but I read with my daughter so that I can discuss it with her. That's why the last book I read with my daughter was I think it was called The Mysterious Disappearance of Aiden or something like
Mysterious
that.
Disappearance of
It was
Aiden. Okay, it's like a mystery.
yeah, it's a kid's book, and I think it's one of best-selling books.
Mm.
So I read that with her, and I did actually have a group of my daughter's friends, and we read the same book, and I help them discuss it a
Wow.
little bit.
That's so
But
cool.
I don't do it anymore because, yeah. But yeah, but because I had to do that, I didn't really have much time to read for myself,
Mm.
or it can just be an excuse too. But I think that's also why when my husband saw me reading a book for myself, he's like, "Why are you reading? What's wrong?"
Yeah. But it was a pleasure to firstly to have this call. So thank you so much for taking the time to read this book because, you know, I know how busy you are being but and you know, reading it even though you were like, it's so cruel. I mean, I'm sure like it was
I know.
whatever. But yeah, thank you. And you know what? I'm so glad that I'm doing this with you and with other friends who are basically like, you know, like you're Korean and then another friend of mine, she was Syrian. So like I'm really able to understand this book through, you know, a Korean's perspective, like what they thought about it. And
Yeah.
like for instance, like the medical thing, I thought it was like very common and I was like, oh, it must be common in Korea. That's why she wrote it. But like now you're like, no, it's actually not the case. So I guess for her it's fantasy, but for me it's reality.
Yeah.
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 But these insights
Yeah.
were really, really helpful and I just want to thank you for taking the time
Mhm.
to read with me.
I just hope that I helped you in some way.
You did, yeah. It would have been very like boring and like just if I did it alone. Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah.
Great.
So
Okay.
take care of yourself, and I hope this recorded. I think it did. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Oh, you can see me now.
Yeah. I see you again.
Okay, yay. Okay, Jay, thank you so much once again. Take care of yourself.
Mm.
Bye.
You too, Meher. I'll enjoy all of your stories on Instagram too.
Thank you, Jay.
So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Bye,
Same
Meher.
here. Bye. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.